Hi, this is Miso and I'm Anastasia, and today we're going to share with you some really nice information on monochrome drawings with charcoal and pencil. It doesn't matter if you're an experienced artist or a beginner, stick to this video as I'm sure you will find it useful. Oh, and by the way, if you're interested in participating in Inktober this year but feel that ink is kind of too complicated at the moment, try out the things which I'm going to show you in this video. Why would you even want to draw in monochrome? Well, one of the most important things in art is value. Value defines how dark or light the things in your drawings are. And maybe you know this feeling that sometimes you have pretty colors, amazing composition, but your drawing still looks kind of boring. Well, it's probably because your values are off. And the best way to train values is to do monochrome art without getting distracted by color. All great artists have done this and you should do too. I suggest you to start with these two easy art materials, which are a simple charcoal and a pencil. Why these two? Well, both are very affordable and very easy to learn. Let's start with a pencil. Maybe you've noticed that your pencils have some numbers and letters written on them, like H, B, 2B, 6B, and so on. But what does that mean and what does it mean for your art? Well, the easy way to memorize it is to say H stands for hard and B stands for black. A hard pencil will give you a thin, easy to erase line, and a black pencil will give you a darker, intenser line which is harder to erase. In reality, H and B shows how the clay and graphite are mixed in your pencil. The more clay you have, the thinner the line gets. The more graphite you have, the thicker the line gets, or the darker the line gets. Why do you need all these different pencils? Well, when you start a drawing, you may be doing a sketch and you will probably do some mistakes and you will probably want to erase them. And erasing an H pencil is way easier than erasing a B pencil. So for sketching, I recommend you take an HB to 2B pencil. And for darker, intense spots for shadows, you could grab a 4B, 6B, or maybe even 8B pencil. There is actually one more pencil, an F1, which stands for fine point, and it lies somewhere between H and HB, but we do not really use that in art, so you could just forget it. The main technique for your pencil art is hatching. Hatching is doing some lines and overlapping the lines, creating shadows, creating beautiful atmosphere. And many people have troubles with hatching because hatching looks kind of hairy, all the lines are too thick or wacky, and there are many reasons why this could happen, so I suggest we go through 4 aspects which make your hatching good. First of all, movement. You have to do the lines quick, because when you do your lines really slow, you can see that your hand starts to shake and your line gets wacky. So you would want to aim for quick, straight, beautiful lines. To do so, you have to understand where your movement starts. You could start your movement from your wrist, from your elbow, or from your shoulder. If you have a small format, you don't have so much space for the movement, so you would want to do the lines from your wrist. If you have a big format, you could get tired quickly if you do all the lines from your wrist, so use your shoulder instead. And for everything in between, the elbow is just perfect. Second, don't press too hard on your pencil when you do your hatching. Why? Because when you press hard, you can't move fast, and when you can't move fast, your line gets wacky. Also, you do not want to have like 3 or 4 really hard pressed dark lines. Instead, you should aim for many beautiful light layers of straight, neat lines. Third thing, maybe not so obvious, but you should shade along the form. Imagine you are drawing an apple. An apple is a spherical form, it's round, and you have to trick the eye of the observer into thinking that this thing is round, because everything is flat on the drawing. Every time you do your art, you create an illusion, and here you should create this illusion by moving your hatching following the form. So if you have an apple, don't do your hatching just from up to bottom, from left to right. Add some round movement to it. But if you're drawing a box which is completely straight and has only straight lines, Don't do round hatching because it may make your box look kind of round and you do not want this. Of course, this does not mean that you can't do any straight lines on an apple, but still the main movement should support the form. And if you have some weird form, still try to follow this weird form with your hatching. Last but not least, you need to keep your pencils sharp. Only with a sharp pencil you will get those beautiful sharp neat lines. Try it out and see for yourself. Also, try not to lay your hand on paper when you do your hatching because otherwise you could smudge your beautiful pencil work and this does not look good. It will probably look messy. I know there are some artists out there who prefer smudging their pencils. I think it looks messy no matter if it's intentional or not. And also there is another material which is literally made for smudging. Let's talk about this one. As you may have guessed, I'm talking about charcoal. There are two kinds of charcoal. Wine charcoal, made out of twigs of grape vines or other trees. It's soft and easy to erase. And there's compressed charcoal, made out of charcoal dust and the binder. This one is really dark, it's good for precise work, but it's very hard to erase. Best results come when you combine both kinds of charcoal, like I do in my work. As I said before, charcoal is an amazing material because you can smudge it all you want. And there are different ways to smudge it. You can use a tissue, a paper towel, a paper stamp, or even your fingers. Some artists prefer to use gloves when working with charcoal to keep their hands clean, but I think that getting your hands dirty is kind of part of the process and I really enjoy it. And remember, when you smudge charcoal, you always lift a little bit of the material from the paper, so you have to add material again so that your artwork does not look too light. So basically, working with charcoal means that you add charcoal, you smudge it, and then you add charcoal again, and then you smudge it, and then again, and so on. And in the end, you can add some details and highlights. But how exactly should you apply charcoal? Well, there are three main techniques. First one is hatching. You do the same hatching you would do with the pencil and then you smudge it a little bit. And then you add a little bit more charcoal and then you smudge it again. And in the end you get this dreamy, blurry, beautiful art. Second technique is block-in technique. It's when you grab your charcoal and start doing dark shades. And then you add the midtones and in the end you do the highlights. This technique may be a little bit difficult for beginners because you normally would not do any sketch. You would just start with all the dark spots. But this trains your eye to see values so beautifully, so I really recommend try this one out. The third technique is charcoal dust. So you basically grab your charcoal and scratch some charcoal dust off it and then you use either your fingers or a brush. And using this charcoal, you start painting, imagining this would be some normal color. This technique gives you beautiful, very soft strokes. It's really perfect for portraits or all these dreamy landscapes. I think the best results come when you combine those techniques. Two or maybe all three. In the end, it's important that you try them all out and see which one suits your art style the best. There is another important tool for both charcoal and pencil artworks, and this tool is an eraser. With an eraser you should not only fix your mistakes but also create highlights and beautiful lighting. I use three types of erasers in my work. A simple eraser from which I cut parts, because simple eraser is a little bit too big, so I need smaller parts so that I can create precise details, precise highlights. A kneadable eraser, which is very nice, flexible. You can use it to lift a little bit of the material or you can even form it to such a pointy thing and make some precise highlights as well. And there is also an eraser pencil. On one end it has a soft eraser and on the other hand it has a hard eraser. So the soft one I use for pencil and the hard one I use for charcoal. You don't need all three erasers to start working with charcoal and pencil. A regular, normal eraser like this one would be enough. Oh, and remember one thing, if you're working with a hard material like an H pencil, you would want to take a soft eraser so that you don't scratch your paper. But if you're working with soft materials like 8B pencil or charcoal, pick a hard eraser because otherwise you will just smudge everything. Try this out for yourself and you will see. So we've talked about materials, we've talked about techniques, but what about the paper? Which paper should you choose for your monochrome art? Well, there are 4 aspects of choosing the right paper. First one is how rough your paper is, meaning how much texture it has. Pencil sticks beautifully to any kind of paper because of this clay and graphite mix, but charcoal needs a little bit of texture to stay on the paper. On smooth sheets, charcoal will just fall off. So, for pencil, choose any paper you want. For charcoal, go for textured paper. Second aspect is thickness. 70 gram is perfect for sketches and everything you will not gift or sell. 140 gram is perfect for all the serious artworks. Why so? When you have thin paper, you cannot really erase a lot because you might make a hole, and we do not want that on serious artworks. Third aspect is size. With pencil, you can do a lot of precise work, you can do a lot of details, so when you get a big format, it can get tiring really fast, since you will be drawing for hours. So a smaller format is better for pencil drawings. But with charcoal, you cannot get precise because of all that smudging, so you might want to try a bigger format. I would even say everything which is below A6 is already way too hard for working with charcoal. The perfect size for both, perfect starting size, is A4. Color. This is our last aspect. Pencil works beautifully on all the light colored papers like white, beige and cream. On darker kinds of paper, well, pencil just disappears, you just will not see the lines. Charcoal needs some texture and charcoal needs some color too. Of course you can do your art on white paper, but if you add some color paper like gray or beige or even craft, especially craft, your drawings will really pop. Just remember to avoid bright colors like red, blue or maybe orange, since we want to focus on monochrome drawings and these colors will just distract. Charcoal and pencil are both materials which tend to smudge and also fall off the paper, which is not so nice, so you have to fix it properly. But how exactly should you do that? I personally use fixative sprays, and there are 2 kinds of fixative sprays. First one is a professional fixative, which you can buy in an art store, and this one is really made for fixing charcoal and pencil. Well, but this one is also pricey. The one I'm holding in my hand cost me 10 euros, and you need a lot to fix your artworks. The second kind is a regular hairspray, which you can buy in every drugstore, and it costs something about 1 euro. It can also fix charcoal and pencil beautifully, but some of these hairsprays also tend to make your charcoal darker and even make your paper yellow. So which one should you use? I personally combine both. Normally I start with the professional fixative and then I add a layer of a hairspray on the top. For all my sketches I only use hairspray since I will not sell that, and it's okay if the colors are a little bit changed. I would suggest you try out different fixatives, different hairsprays, because some hairsprays do not make the paper yellow and do not make charcoal dark, so I think it's a pretty nice life hack to save some money. After fixing, you should also store your artworks correctly. The perfect way to store charcoal and pencil is by dividing your drawings with glassine sheets, or even by keeping them under glass. Of course, if you do a lot of artworks, you will not have the time or space or money to do this, so you could just leave your sketches in your sketchbook the way I do, but first spray them with hairspray or fixative. So, that was it. Pretty easy, huh? Now I suggest you try out working with charcoal and pencil, and if you need a tutorial to start on, I already have 2 short tutorials on my channel. Let me know in the comments if you would wish to see a longer version of these tutorials as well. Thank you for your attention. Me and Miso wish you a beautiful time and see you in the next video. Bye!